Hi, I'm your host, Michelle Poverman, a former anxious empath turned mostly grounded psychotherapist, intuitive guide, and energy healer, and this is Into the Work. And it isn't just a podcast. It's your actual invitation to break free from old patterns, end the cycle of your self-abandonment, and finally step into the life your soul has been craving. Each episode is a spark to help you rise higher, to help you shine brighter and reclaim the truth of who you really are. The spark has already been lit. And sister, this is a journey from spark to brilliance. So together, let's go ignite a fire. There is a particular season in entrepreneurship, in running a business, in owning something and building something. There's a certain season when nothing is necessarily wrong. Things can be working. You can feel like I have learned a lot. I have built something. I have become more capable, more experienced. You can actually truly see how this thing has made you more resilient. And yet something feels kind of small about it. Something feels almost tight. Tight, perhaps, is not the right word, but constricted in your body. The things that used to motivate you might just not anymore, right? They don't have that same pull. And you keep having ideas about what could be next, but you can't seem to fully move towards whatever that thing is that comes to your mind about what could be next. And maybe you keep doing what entrepreneurs are taught to do when something feels off. You try to change something strategically. Maybe you try to think, okay, I'm going to tweak this and make it better or create a better offer, or I need to maybe work harder here and post more. You try to funnel this energy of misalignment and put it towards something that's in the doing quality, right? The busyness of our work. And sometimes you may see what it is that you want to be different. You might see, I want to move away from this. I want to become this. I want to do that. So maybe the problem isn't that you don't know what to do. Sometimes you've reached what I call the identity threshold. And I want to talk to you about that today. The woman who built this version of your business wherever you are at in the world may not be the person or the woman who can lead where your vision wants you to go next. And that gap is something that really is important, and I've been talking a lot about lately. And that doesn't mean that there is anything wrong with her, right? The woman you have been. In fact, I want you to hear this. We can honor what shaped us without asking it to lead us towards what's coming next. Because some of these identities that helped us become successful were built for very specific reasons. Here's some examples. The woman who learned to over-deliver. The woman who became incredibly self-reliant to the point of hyper-independence and isolation. Okay, totally raising my hand on that path, and my own path. The woman who makes sure that everyone is happy with her. The woman who doesn't launch anything until it feels perfect enough. The woman who keeps her biggest ideas tucked safely away until she's 100% sure that they're going to work. Those versions of us, if any one of those describes where you have been and how that helped you build what you have built thus far, they can be extraordinarily competent. They can build businesses. They can create success. They can get us very, very far, right? That's why we've always done them, because that's what we know works. It can take us far until it can't. This is one of the things I want to really, truly explore today, because I think we are very quick to call ourselves stuck. I have totally used that language myself. I've used it with my clients, my previous programs. I've talked a lot about being stuck, how to get unstuck was sort of like the way through, right? What if some of what we're calling stuckness is actually threshold tension? And I think that changes the energy in our bodies when we say that. So if I tell you you're not stuck, you're standing at a threshold. Do you feel the energy shift in your body when I say that to you? One identity knows how to survive and succeed inside the life you've already created. And another part of you can totally sense more. You can sense more impact, visibility, freedom, money, right? Creativity, leadership. Maybe an entirely different expression of your work is trying to come through you. And now there is a tension. Now there's a tension between what you can envision and what your current way of operating knows how or what to hold. This is where I see so many incredibly gifted women start questioning themselves. Why can't I just do it? I know what I want. Why do I keep avoiding it? Why am I still dealing with this? Why do I keep changing my mind? Oh my gosh, I have struggled with moving in so many different directions in my past. But why does it feel so hard when you know you're capable, right? I am interested in a different question. Who have you had to be to create the business you have now? And is that identity compatible with a business you're trying to create next? And I really dig this statement, so I'm going to say it here again, that your business does not create your wounds, it reveals them. I believe on some level, and if you know you're with me, right, that some level we chose this before we even came down here, that we really wanted this human experience. And we all come down here to have the human experience, which is pain. We want to have suffering. We want to experience the depth of emotions, and we want to have the full range of life. And part of that for you and I is also being an entrepreneur. And that wounding mixed with our gifts and our strengths and our light and our essence, all of it, right, has kind of created where you are now. And eventually, though, those wounds that cause the limited beliefs or the limitations that you experience day to day, they reveal identities that you built around them. And the identity that made you successful can become also the identity that limits you. So this is where I think entrepreneurship gets really incredibly interesting to me as a therapist, because our businesses become these extraordinary mirrors. Let's say somewhere along the way, you learned that your value came from being useful. So you might become an incredible service provider, right? You anticipate everyone's needs. You totally overdeliver. Your clients adore you. Your business is growing. So externally, that pattern, it looks like a strength because there are aspects to it that are strong. But this is all until your vision requires scale. You hear me. I know you do. Once it requires scale, once it requires that you go big or you go home, right? Once it requires boundaries, until it requires you to stop being available to everyone. When that happens, shit gets turned upside down. Until it requires you to charge differently, to take care of yourself differently, requires you to let other people carry the pieces of the work. And suddenly the very identity that helped create your success starts bumping up against your expansion. Or maybe you just even learned that being visible wasn't entirely safe. So you can still build a successful business. You can work behind the scenes. You can become exceptional at your craft, whatever it is that you do. You can build through referrals. Lots of us have done that where we're like, well, I'm just referral based, and maybe that fills your business until you want to scale, right? You can stay in the room where you already know you're good. That helps. But then your vision starts asking you to do more, right? It asks you to speak. It asks you to teach, to lead. Maybe it asks you to host a podcast, maybe to write a book or stand on a stage or say the thing you freaking believe will rock the room. Now that business is asking something entirely different from you. It's asking you to have more capacity. That's the big word nowadays, but I do love it. This is why I say having a bigger vision without an expanded identity creates frustration. Because a bigger vision without this bigger identity, you can see it, you can want it, you may even know exactly what to do, but your current identity keeps trying to execute the future from the rules of the past. So how do you know you've reached an identity threshold? It doesn't always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like boredom. Sometimes, with something you used to love, like it looks like boredom. Sometimes you're successful on paper, but privately thinking, I don't want to keep doing this in this way anymore. And the pressure of it looking successful and the pressure of expectations doesn't feel good. Sometimes we have an idea that keeps returning no matter what, no matter how many times you dismiss it. I've talked about that a lot on this podcast. Talked about my experience with that for me, things had to hit me over the head 15 times. Or in my past, that's how it was. And one last thing I want to say that's true for a lot of us, and if you're listening and you're in the service industry in any way, shape, or form, that if you are trading time for money, eventually, I don't care who you are, there typically comes a time where you start to think, can I keep doing this? And the universe likes to kick us in the butt to get us to move. So all of a sudden, your business that's like busting from the seams, all of a sudden there's all these cancellations, right? There's like all this stuff happening where the money's no longer being made somehow, some way. And money's energy. I always want to remind you of that. Money is energy. And so money is reflecting back to you what is in balance and what is aligned and what isn't. And when you start feeling like, wow, I feel like I'm working so hard, but the money's not there, that's also another thing to look at. And for service providers trading time for money, you are energetically sometimes finding yourself in an imbalance and you're exhausted and it's like, I can't do more of this to get more of that. And you get burnt out. So somehow, some way, you are feeling like there is more for me than this. And you just have that little inkling, that little seed that is like starting to sprout inside you. And again, not because the garden you've grown already isn't already beautiful and wonderful or not enough, right? It's that you're meant for something more. I think we are on a train in life, right? And we're going on this train and we're stopping at all these places. And, people get off the train sometimes, friends, family, that just no longer are by our side in life. And shit changes. And I think our business is also a part of the shifting and changing that absolutely happens as we move into this life and we create and we head towards the destination. I think the desire itself deserves a shitload of your attention. So any desire that you have that starts to arise, I want you to think of it as little lights going off and going ding, 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 ding. And I want you to stop and give it a moment, give your attention. Now, I want to talk to you about what I mean by, I talk a lot about soul-led entrepreneurs, and it's how I'm trying to coin the woman that I'm trying to help and reach right now. And I've kind of gone back and forth between soul-led entrepreneur and spiritual entrepreneur. I felt like spiritual entrepreneur makes you think that you need to be a healer doing healing work. And the women that I work with are so many different kinds of jobs that they do or services they provide. So it's not about being, I think you're a healer by nature, but you could be a healer by nature and work at the bank. Do you know what I mean? So the soul-led entrepreneur is what I've been using. And I want to tell you what I actually mean by it. I'm not actually talking about the number of crystals on your desk, but of course, I'm fully in support of that. I'm talking about the woman who knows her business isn't simply a mechanism for generating revenue. Now, remember, revenue is energy, and it is part of the equation. It's a very important part of the equation. Revenue is energy, and energy is power. And I am so all about making women more powerful, especially today, in this day and time. This is what I'm here to do. And no doubt why it is this day and time, because of all the shit going down in the world, but we won't go there right now. So the soul entrepreneur isn't just clocking in. She isn't just doing this for reasons that are about proving something or even just staying in a creative zone, right? Like, it's not just about that. She has something to contribute, but she also knows that her evolution becomes the evolution she offers to the world. It will come with her soul quest here, why she's here, what she's here to express. And soul-led women are into the work, right? I just realized I said the name of my podcast and I didn't mean to. But she's into the work. She's here doing it. She's open because she wants to grow and evolve and create her potential here, her purpose. She's driven by a mission and a purpose. And those two things are what feed into the vision that she is here to create and be led by. This is where I think you feel the pull. Like this thing is coming for me whether I like it or not, this mission that I have calling me. But I think sometimes this is where we can misunderstand vision. And so I want to mention this too, that I think we sometimes think, oh, a vision means I have the entire thing figured out. Most of us have figured out at this point that the next chapter, your next chapter, rarely is going to give you a whole map before you get to go, before you take your first step, right? I think it asks whether you're willing to cross the threshold without one, actually. Hey, I want to invite you to something that has the potential to really change how you see your business and yourself in it forever. I created the free core wound quiz. In just 5 minutes, you'll uncover the unconscious patterns that are shaping your business. And you're also going to discover the soul level gift waiting on the other side for you. It's completely free, michellepoverman.com/quiz. And now let's get into today's episode. Sometimes that vision begins as a knowing, and let's differentiate between something that you know, like you have evidence for, and when you have a knowing, right? Evidence says, I know because I can prove it. Knowing says, I don't have the proof yet, but something in me recognizes this is mine. And you experience the pull, a reoccurring idea that keeps showing up. Even though you knock it down, keeps showing up. A sentence you can't stop writing in notebooks, perhaps, or businesses you haven't built yet just keep coming to mind, or a room you keep imagining yourself standing in, a book that keeps following you around. You're like, oh, that would be cool for a book, right? You get the pull. You don't need proof that it will work before you're allowed to want it. And you're allowed to want something bigger before you know how to build it. For me, I was a traditional therapist for 10 years or so, and I had a pivotal moment of getting very sick. I had Lyme disease, which was horrific, actually. It took me over a year to get back to myself. It was just one of the most difficult times going through that. And that, however, as dark as it got, that got me to going into the trenches of deeper work and healing, and coming across my first true healer who taught me Reiki and changed the trajectory of my life. So I no longer could work the way that I knew how to work, which was a traditional therapist path, right? And at the time, before starting my business, I didn't know a single person who did therapy and Reiki. In fact, there's a lot that worked against me doing this thing, but I was like, I 100% know there's no other option. There's no other way to work because there's no going back. It would be completely against the grain. So I needed to decide at that moment that I was going to take the risk of doing something that people might judge. And they did. I mean, I had other professionals that were like, "You're doing what? Are you touching that? What are you doing?" They felt, I think, threatened in their own ways because they were on a bit of a healing path, but they were so stuck in the rules that they were living in that they were like, and putting that upon me. So of course I was like coming out of the spiritual closet. And just in case you have not listened to this, I do have an episode about the spiritual closet that I will drop in the show notes. It's a really powerful episode. And in that, I talk about how coming out of the spiritual closet is really, truly 100% about stepping into leadership. And that was the beginning. That was a threshold that changed everything for me. And I stepped into leadership in a whole new way. And that was owning what I knew was right and what I truly know still to this day. And we've all watched it unfold over the last 10 years, that energy is the new way of healing. Energy is now being offered in doctors' offices. We've got energy equipment that's working with frequency is starting to become more mainstream. it's going to be the new way of healing. But at the time when I was coming into it, it was still really questionable. So my point of sharing all this is to say, if you were to tell me 10 years ago that I would be doing what I'm doing now, because so much of what I'm doing is like totally cringe mountain, right? Like I'm going out into Instagram and making videos of myself, and oh my gosh, I would have died. I would have died if you told me 10 years ago and showed me what I was doing. I'd be like, what? Like I couldn't even hardly get on Instagram at the time. And if you're avoiding cringe mountain, it's totally respectable. You do you. And I'm not even crossed over into the higher levels of it all. I think it's leadership, and you actually have to stop caring so much about what everybody else thinks in order to put yourself out there. And so there's just such growth in it. But at the point in which when I stepped through the threshold and I created my energy therapy business, my vision wasn't asking me to throw away the women who had gotten me there. It was asking me to stop making her limitations the limits of my future, because I couldn't bring those with me. So I want to really highlight that expansion is not reinvention. This distinction matters to me. Expansion isn't about deciding the current version of you isn't good enough and you need to go manufacture a better one. And I believe we get to choose which parts, right? And I believe we're born with this essence, with possibility, with potential, our core self, I call her a lot. And then life happens and we adapt and we develop all these roles and identities and ways of keeping ourselves safe and accepted. And some of those adaptations are incredibly useful, but they also constrict what feels possible. So when I talk about becoming expansive, I'm talking about increasing your capacity to access possibility again, to loosen your grip on the identities that have become too small. So I'm going to just mention a couple of clients that I've worked with that this work has really helped. I worked with a woman who came to me who was really sick with migraines, and she was just really unwell, and she was really focused on being unwell. And when we really looked at the problem, we got to see how constricted she was, how the work she was doing was no longer aligned with her, and that literally her threshold identity issue was actually making her sick. It was really sparking some issues for her. And so by understanding how to open up to possibility, to how to recognize, oh, okay, this is the part of me that's freaking out, and this potential that I have over here is just being ignored, that changed everything for her. And then she was able to shift out of an old career that was totally misaligned and start a business of her own. And in doing that, and stepping into being a healer was her greatest joy. And everything changed, and she did. Not that I think that changing your job or business is going to get rid of your migraines, but, it did for her. And I think it can make a big difference on many areas of our life. So another woman that I worked with was actually a business owner already, but she had been passed down a business, right? She had a business that someone gave to her. So this was a business that was very male-dominated and totally misaligned with who she was and some of her insane, beautiful gifts. Oh my God, this woman's so talented. But nobody liked her gifts at this place, right? Nobody wanted them. And so she lived in a world of rejection, right? Like, even though it was her business, all her people-pleasing was coming out, all this other stuff coming out, and she was being rejected. She had to do the work of recognizing this calling as legitimate, and this is her next level. But just focusing on her truth and letting that drive her, and recognizing what was driving her before that was causing her to stay where she was at in this place, just mind-blowing. It allowed her to actually step into who she is, which is an extremely gifted person in the world helping others. So maybe this is you. Maybe you're listening to this while you're building something that technically really works, but no longer feels like the fullest expression of you. Or maybe you left corporate life. I know there's a lot of you out there that are leaving the life that no longer fits, doesn't feel good, and you're building something for yourself for the first time. And you're having to look at the identity that was over there needs to shift to come over here. Maybe you've been circling the same idea for 2 years and you just, have a notebook full of things you swear you're going to do someday and you haven't yet. I think on some level, we need to look at things a little differently, right? We need to ask, who have I been being that makes what I want feel unavailable to me? And what might be possible if I stopped asking that woman to lead. And this is why I created Becoming Expansive, the live experience I'm teaching on September 1st, which is coming up, by the way. And we're going to explore what expansion actually means, why protection can become that ceiling on possibility, and how chronic stress and old survival strategies can narrow what you're able to imagine in the first place. I can't tell you how many women I talk to that just can't imagine it because they don't have access. We're not just going to talk about it. I'm going to lead you through an activation designed to help you experience, just to open you up as much as possible. I mean, we only have a short time together, but I'm going to try to open you up as much as possible to just allow yourself to get expansive and to see what's going on. And because expansion isn't just an idea, it's also something we can practice accessing. In fact, I think that's something I really hope you walk away with after coming to the whole Becoming Expansive experience, because I want you to say, oh, I can do this more often with myself. And if you've been feeling that pull towards something more, but you can't quite see how to get from where you are to where you're being called next, I created this room for you. So come join us on September 1st. And if you're already listening and thinking, Michelle, I don't just want the activation, I'm ready to actually do this work. I really want to start living in this place as much as possible and start really seeing forward. The Vision Lab, which is open now for enrollment. And the Vision Lab is where we're going deeper into these patterns, identities, and vision, shaping the trajectory of your business. Because this isn't just about chasing your next level. It's about getting clear enough to recognize what is calling you forward and expanding your capacity to meet it. And you don't need to know exactly how the next chapter unfolds, but you do have to become willing to stop letting an old identity decide how much of your vision you're allowed to pursue. And maybe that's how you know you're standing at a threshold. Because the life and business you've already built can no longer contain everything you know you're here to create. And I want to just normalize that. That is a beautiful thing. Some of us feel a ton of discord inside us when we feel like, holy shit, I can't believe this doesn't fit for me anymore. What am I going to do? We can panic. We can feel like we want to hold on and grasp tighter to something, even if it doesn't feel like it's working. So I have so much compassion. I've been there and done that because there's even grief when we shift and change things. But what's on the other side of it, sister, is just a beautiful, incredible extension of your next level. And it's a more expansive state. And so please go check out, I have this link in the show notes. I'd really love to have you there. There will be a replay. If you sign up, you'll get the replay, but I highly recommend you be there live. I know everybody does and says that, but I do think the activation is going to be more powerful live. And if you've ever come to anything for me, in person or online, there is an energy that we have. I mean, even as soon as you sign up, our energies start connecting. So sign up, come to Becoming Expansive, and let's see what happens. And I will be talking for 5 minutes at the end about the Vision Lab. So if you have questions about that you're just not sure about yet, feel free to come and listen to that and you can learn more. And if you are curious and want to learn more and you really just want to talk to me, you can just do a 20-minute consult and sign up for that. And I'll have that in the link in the show notes. So have a beautiful day. Thank you for listening. I love you guys so much. And I'm so appreciative of your beautiful energy and time. I really feel like we are sisters on a mission. And I'm so honored to be a part of it. All right. So thank you. See you next week. Bye for now. Thank you for joining me on Into the Work, Therapy for Empaths and Seekers. If this episode spoke to you, please follow the podcast and leave a review. It is the best way to spread this healing work to other women. Your presence here matters. Step into your power, heal your soul, and rise with women who are doing the same. Keep joining us every week, and together we can heal the world. If you're ready to dive deeper, grab your free Shadow Work Transformation Bundle in the show notes, and I will look forward to seeing you next week.